it's June, and there's competition for implementing the C-hip. All right, this month, okay, we see in this C-hip, being pushed. First and foremost, I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone Rule Well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect. Alright, this video will be entitled, It's June. Okay, it's June. Paradromics, Paradromics, okay, just implemented its first brain chip device, C-hip device. Okay, basically a new company, a competitor of Neuralink, known for the BCI technology of implanting, this in your brain, in your forehead. Okay, in Revelation 13 verse 16. All right, they recently come out here and basically now implanted its first brain chip as you see on screen. Okay, say University lower down here, University of Michigan, and Paradromics, June the 17th, 2026. Okay, 9 o'clock, okay, AM EST. All right. Okay, so just take a read of this here. This is we making this up. Okay, from the apostles on down, been doing this. All these camps can look like hypocrites, or fools, okay, for not telling the truth when this thing, comes on display. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. So, prophecy is manifesting, taking place. What John the Revelator saw, what the Lord gave him in that Revelation, 13 and 16 is this, the C-hip being mandated, implemented on the world. Okay, it's competition, towards this thing, I'll read this. This is an article here, Business Insider. All right, and I just come across this article, okay, on Chrome, the Chrome Google engine. I come across this. All right, just the spirit, on the systems, MOTB. All right, it says Neuralink competitor Paradromics just implanted its first brain C-hip device. The next step is restoring speech. All right. Okay. You see that? Look at that. That's the Lion Wonders right. Right there. Okay. This devil coming down towards this thing. It's like if you hear noise. All right. Okay. Okay. That so-called counterfeit power. Mirroring Yehovah Shem Yahushai. Want to get up there. Okay, and coming down with the people with this thing, with this God complex he has. All right, it says Paradromics, a competitor of Elon Musk's Neuralink, recently completed its first brain implant in a human patient, and there's many competitors for this thing, in China, whatnot. I'll type up some there. We'll check it out, shortly there. All right, just continue reading. It says okay, let me read it over again. It says Paradromics, a competitor of Elon Musk's Neuralink, recently completed its first brain implant in a human patient, marking a major milestone in the startup's decade-long effort to use brain-computer interfaces, BCI, alright, technology, that C-hip, to restore lost human functions, which is bullshit. The Lord created you, okay, you have no imperfection of the Lord. Again, this is Lion Wonders, okay. Well, and what they mean actually, okay, what they mean by that too is basically ailments and whatnot. But by true power, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, you will be healed. But he coming down with this and making it seeming real, and basically making himself as a god. All right, I'll just read on. It says the startup announced Wednesday that its Connexus brain chip was implanted in a in a Michigan woman who has difficulty speaking due to a motor neuron disease. The woman's identity has not yet been disclosed to protect patient privacy. The procedure was a part of the FDA approved um, clinical study conducted at University of Michigan Health. All right, let me just see here. That's so that's already what we want of this. Okay, so this is coming to pass. Is manifesting. This great hour of temptation. First is gradualism and deception of you taking this. Okay, and they're gonna come down fully hard. So it's prophecy in Habakkuk 3 division. Okay, now is the appointed time. Okay, this is a past division, of the coming of Yahushua, the Mashiach, right? So just have something here. Okay, is there an opponent to Neuralink brain chip, right? Chip. That's what they say. Yes, Neuralink has several prominent competitors in the brain computer interface BCI industry. And this is just the ones, I see, on that article, right? It says these opponents are actively developing medical devices to help patients with paralysis, neurological conditions, regain communication and movement capabilities. Okay, the main competitors advancing in human clinical trials. All right, and this is the one we have, Paradromics. So we have Synchron, Paradromics, Precision Neuroscience, BrainGate, all these things. So they're coming down, okay, with great wrath with this technology. Okay, so I'm gonna just pull a precept here. Okay, first I'll just start off with this classic precept, Revelation chapter 12 and verses 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath. Okay, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Okay, that devil is a man. Okay, who doing the part of Satan, who's siding with Satan on the left hand side. Okay, this man is Esau Edom, the so-called white man. In the Greek is the name for devil is is Diablos. Okay, so he knows he has a time limit, and basically trying to come back to his prime, a godship, with this whole level of profane, trying to oppose the Most High. All right. Okay. This is 2 Thessalonians 2 and verses 9. Okay, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan. This him is a man. Okay, I just said that the man is Esau Edom, devil, who's coming after the working of Satan. Been given that basically been given that imagination of becoming a god. Alright? This is his complex, alright? It says, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. Okay, one of the meanings of Diablos, okay, in the New Testament, in the Greek, okay, is cunning arts. Cunning arts he coming with. Okay, heavy deception to get you to take this, basically, pushing his godhood, okay, and putting on falsehood. When you go in that word lying, okay, there's the word pseudos.
Strong's G 5579. Pseudos.
Okay, like for pseudo science. okay, false knowledge, okay, to make itself as a, God, all right, okay, a lie, conscious and intentional falsehood. It's intentional to make itself as for you to worship the creature, right? Them, the basis of men. All right. In a broad sense, whatever is not what it seems to be, and that's not what it seems to be. Okay, not helping there. The consequences is coming. That Revelation 16, Revelation also 14. Verses like 11. Okay. This mark is a mark of destruction. Okay. If you take this, there's no coming back. This is what you coming on the saints. At the end of the day, the election is gonna be still in connected with the Albashim Yahushai, I'm not gonna, gonna stand up for the names. I'm not gonna take this, okay? It says of perverse, impious, deceitful precepts, okay, deceitful knowledge, okay, so counterfeit power. All right, let me read the NLT. This man will come to do the work of Satan with counterfeit power and signs and miracles. I'm going to EMP here. Okay, it says the coming of the anti Messiah, Antichrist. Okay, basically means against the Mashiach, which is many Antichrist, these Edomites. All right, the lawless. Okay, one is through the activity of Satan, his cunning arts, his deceivery. All right, attended with great power, all kinds of counterfeit miracles and deceptive signs and false wonders. All of them lies. All of them lies. This is what they're giving you in the internet with this C-hip. All right. I want you to go in the word power. Okay. Select here. End up going here. And this is just Lord, and pressing this by mistake, but hey, all through Spirit of the Lord. It says working efficiency in the New Testament use only if superhuman power, whether of power or the devil. Okay, you see force, effective, often oppressive, power exhibiting itself in a single deed of violence. Well, I didn't want to that power, so they mimicking the power of Yahweh Shem Shai. This is what they coming with. I wanted to go in the word power, to in the Greek.
Strong's G 1411. Dunamis. Dunamis.
Strength, power, ability, inherent power. But they not do have inherent power. It's counterfeit. All right. That's when I stand and we lift it up. We're gonna get that power. Here. The Lord's willing. Lord, we be that men. Okay, in that time, in the time of trouble, we're gonna have that spiritual power. All right. Okay, power residing in a thing by virtue of its nature. Okay, power for performing miracles. This is what they want to achieve. Okay, the power of influence, and which belongs to the rich and wealth. So this is what I wanted to bring here. This is who's the rich and wealth? Okay, Esau, Edom. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. All right. So this is what all these the Elon Musk or all these companies ready from these elites, okay, want to achieve. This efficiency they plan. All right. This is Revelation chapter 13 and verses Revelation chapter 13 and verses 14. And he deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. Okay, counterfeit power, already given by Yahweh Shem Yahushai, that thought, okay, that this technology what he have, phone I'll chime on that one, okay, to do that, all right, okay, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. Okay, this is what it coming on with. Verse 15, it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Okay, when you go in that word power, it is of power, God or the devil. Okay, basically spirit, supernatural power, superhuman. This is what you wanna achieve, all right? The beast that it's like unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship of the image of the beast should be killed. This is going to be achieved by the AI and whatnot. Okay, the technology. Okay, this is how the story is going to be. Great time of persecution. Verse 16 it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. This is everybody. Okay, the forehead ones is like para. So like here, I'm gonna bring that back. Like Paradromics, alright, and Neuralink, Synchron, all these things, alright. Okay, this is what they wanna achieve. This is what they competing, to these elites have them doing this, to bring about this system, prophecy, what we've been seeing, what the apostles been seeing for decades. And this is knowledge really being increased. All right, Daniel 12. Until they bring this and verses 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. All right, now knowledge being increased only in the right hand with this truth. We have the spirit of life. We are weakened. We have the eye salve, the Rakak Kodash. We have the names. Okay, and we could preach and many run to and fro about, hearing this also, like with this system. Because people are going to be amazed with this, running to and fro to tell, to think of miracles, Okay, and that's the cunning arts of this devil. Okay, and his knowledge being increased on the left hand side. Okay, I've gone to this chord complex. Let's go in the word knowledge.
Strong's H 1847. Da'ath.
Knowledge, perception, skill, discernment. Okay, understanding, wisdom. They have this on the left hand side. Discernment, all these things, like how we have the spirit of discernment, because these certain spirits, they doing it on a carnal level. All right. Let me just select here. Let me see that word perception. Okay, the ability to see, hear, or become aware of something through the senses. And he wanna do this, he gonna accomplish this by getting in your brain. Okay? Perception is this is the AI overview. Perception is the cognitive process of organizing, identifying, and interpreting sensory information to understand the environment. Again, you want to get in your brain. Alright? This is what it is. Okay? So, this is what they're coming down. Implementing this. Alright? To perform the enterprise. This is Job 5 and verses 12. Okay, he disappointed the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise, their plans, their success. This, they can't succeed. You're gonna be disappointed. As this they feel they in the prime with the seed, godhood, godship, or whatnot. Okay, they're gonna be disappointed, but this is what is coming on the earth, and this is prophecy coming to pass. So, these camps have a lot of explaining to do, as the apostles to hardest go into and whatnot. Okay, so prophecy is happening. All right, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash, double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well, peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, Wa Abad Babal, and Shalom.